Critical Role Season 2, Episode 3. Like I said last episode, Episode 3 did start off with combat. So if you're into combat, combat immediately, combat again after the break as well. So there was a lot of fighting in this episode. A lot happened this episode. If you're looking for an episode in which things got done, this would be a good one to watch. I would say there wasn't a ton of character building. We did establish more that Nott and Caleb are definitely a unit, and Nott has an affection for Caleb and is concerned about Caleb. But yeah, so the first fight against the two husks went pretty smoothly. Well, it went smoothly with the exception of Molly getting torn to shreds. He was the first one to get knocked unconscious in the campaign, but they brought him back up without too much issue. Jester used a cantrip to prevent him from dying. Directly after that fight, they kind of tried to figure out what they were going to do with the bodies, and as far as hiding themselves and making sure the guards didn't know that they had been out there where they weren't supposed to be. Loaded the bodies up and went chasing after where the giant toad had leapt off to in the night, and they tracked it all the way to the lake where it seemed as if it had gone into the lake and then possibly onto an island that was out in the middle of the lake, and they couldn't really do much more that night because it was coming day and they didn't want the guards to find out that they weren't back at the inn where they're supposed to be. So they went back, slept till noon or 2. They spoke with the guards and everything was fine. They were gonna go report to the lawmaster, but then the guards came back and said that they needed them to stay there and not leave, and that they weren't going to go talk to the lawmaster because they found there was murders and some of the guards had been killed. Nott turned out to have plenty of gold for Caleb, so Nott just handed over 13 gold and Caleb went and bought the 2 books, and he read the Book of Fiends and learned a little bit more about our Devil Toad guy. Learned a little bit more about it. Nothing super useful though, just kind of a few things that sparked Molly's memory and kind of made Molly start to think, oh shit, Cowrie is not a lizard man. He is some sort of fiend, some sort of demonic creature. Caleb turned Frumpkin, his cat, into a sparrow in order to go scout the islands, but with a couple of pretty bad perception rolls. The bird didn't really see much other than the fact that there are 2 islands and one of them is considerably larger and has a lot more force. That night they snuck out again, and Ford used his charisma again to fool the guards. The guards had amped up the security of the place and had more people posted on the inn to make sure that they weren't leaving, and they even had someone posted in the back alley. Ford went out there, used his ability to look like someone else, and just walked out the front door and then went and convinced the guard that there was a creature attacking. That allowed the others to slip out the back window. After the guard had been chasing after him for a while, he turned around and acted like he was senile in order to trick the guard into thinking that everything was fine and he didn't really know what the hell was going on, which worked out well. He did get a backhand slap for it. And then they went to the docks, and Ford, once again, coming in very handy, used the fact that he's a sailor to get free passage on one of the ships. He just ended up, they got a bottle of wine for the guy who was steering the boat. They got taken out to the big island. It used to be inhabited by an old witch like 100 years ago or whatever is the story around town, so no one really goes there. And then when they get to the island, they find some ruins, and Bo jumps up onto the roof and finds Cowrie, the Devil Toad. A fight ensues. Lots of damage is done, not so much by the Devil Toad, but actually by the imps that he summons. He summons out 3 imps. One of them gets killed pretty much instantly, but then the other 2 just kind of run around wreaking havoc. Their poison, they're basically just one-shotting people in the group. It was pretty crazy. A lot of people went down. Caleb went down, Ford went down in that one night. While everyone was fighting the Devil Toad and the imps that were summoned, Bo was fighting the little 12-year-old girl. She was trying to get her to be silent because the girl was casting a spell using her voice to mess with the entire group, and the group had to keep doing wisdom saving rolls in order to not have disadvantage on all their attacks. And so she attempted at first to just like cover her mouth, but she kept failing the grappling checks. And then she ended up just elbowing her in the head and knocking her out in one hit. Ford managed to do a lot of work. Ford did a lot of, like, he was definitely the MVP of this episode as far as getting the guard to go away so they could sneak out, and then getting them passage on the boat. And then Ford also did a ton of damage to the Devil Toad and also got the final blow on the Devil Toad. On the Devil Toad, they managed to find just a flesh pouch Apparently it was all mucusy inside, but it was filled with like rings and jewelry, and Jester took all the goodies out of that. Next episode, they'll be going back to town, probably trying to bring part of the body or the whole body with them of the Devil Toad to prove that they've killed it and try and get their names cleared. And Matt also indicated that they will be most likely leveling up that episode as well, because he's doing milestone leveling. Once they've kind of cleared up this little story arc, they're going to get their levels, so we'll see what abilities and paths that they choose to go down, which should be pretty interesting from a systems point of view. Overall, it was a very combat heavy episode, which I like. There was definitely humor also, as always. Less of it, I would say. It was less funny comparatively because it was more combat oriented. It was good overall. Like I said, Ford definitely MVP. Yeah, I think that's it. Like, comment, tell me what you thought. Subscribe, follow, all that stuff. See you next time.